Hi, welcome to the first full-length video that I'm going to do here to share with Studio News subscribers. And if you are not a Studio News subscriber and you'd like to get notice of when these videos are posted to my website, you can subscribe either at the link in the video block content below or on my website at the newsletter tab. So today I'm at my home studio, which means that I have a puppy with me. He is 7 months old. And then we have another dog who is 4, who is much more chill, but painting with puppies around reminds me of when I started painting regularly with a preschooler and a kindergartner at home. And that was actually why I started plein air painting outside, primarily because I didn't have to have all of this set up in the house, and paintings were sort of a start and finish in the same session. That was what worked best for me. So now, as I was setting up for this demo, it took a lot longer than it would have if I didn't have a puppy here. And that said, there also may be interruptions as I work. But I was thinking of doing some real-time bits, some time-lapse bits, and really kind of try and share a process with you. I'm actually doing something that I have never done before. I'm painting on Arches oil paper on the pad here, which I have done before, but this time I prepared it with a gesso ground. One thing that I don't enjoy about the Arches oil paper is it has a really draggy surface. So I thought by doing oil ground, kind of letting that set up a little bit, that might give a little bit more slickness to the surface. So I will share still shots of my setup, my paints, colors, and manufacturers that I'm using, and I guess that's it. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoy. So when I paint from life at home, I really like to paint at my kitchen table. I have these big windows here. The light is just always really so nice, and I get some good shadows, good highlights. It is not the greatest setup for filming a video, so hopefully this doesn't go too far in and out of exposure while I'm working here. But my first step that I usually do is to use a pastel pencil to sort of block in, especially when I'm working from life, when I'm working with objects that have more form. I guess with landscapes, plein air, it's a little more open to interpretation, I feel like, than when I'm trying to fit a vase or flowers or whatever it is into the constraints of the canvas. And speaking of which, this paper is 12 by 16, but because I think I would probably mount it to a board, when it's finished, I've kind of just cornered off for myself 11 by 14 size, and I will paint beyond that because when I've done gluing paper to board before, there is sort of a little bit of like shrinkage, pretty minimal, but it has made an impact. If I have what I think is exactly the right size for the board, then I glue it down, it kind of absorbs some of that glue and shrinks up a little bit. So that's what those marks are for. I have my viewfinder, which can be helpful for placing objects. One thing that I often do is, especially with something like this or treetops, sort of a similar idea, I just like really make them full, and then they end up either going off the page or being sort of comically out of proportion. And I'm never really trying to get an exact, I'm not a realist painter. I'm a representational painter, and so my interpretation is definitely part of what I'm including, but at the same time, I don't want it to look like a comic comic rendition of what I'm seeing. I want it to have a feeling of real life without being super realistic. So I'm just kind of sketching in, and I'm leaning back a little bit to do my sketch to get my viewpoint on the bouquet. These actually, I bought these a couple nights ago, and when I brought them home, Tug, who is our puppy, he did not understand what was happening, and he would just bark and bark at the bouquet. So he has started to not be as afraid of these flowers, but I was wondering if it is because they kind of look like they have eyes, these Gerber daisies. So I am going to finish up this blocking in and then tell you a little bit about starting off with paint. So when I start working with color, I usually kind of pick out the color that I feel like I recognize most easily and mix that one up first. So for whatever reason with this painting, this bottom of I guess this is a globe or a clear round vase that has this, I don't remember what these plants are called. So that color popped out at me, so I mixed that up, and so far that I am liking this surface. Let's see, some of these leaves in shadow, so I'm kind of just putting these in with a brush, not really super concerned about much more than just a flat color space at this point and shape. They start to get a little warmer as they move toward the window, so I mix a little yellow in. All right, I'll just move on from there for a second. Let's see what else. I also mixed up, let's see, we'll start with this tabletop color, warmth of the wood catching the, oh yeah, this is, wow, this is much more like what I prefer surface to be like with this oil ground. I guess the point of the oil paper is to be able to paint on paper that you don't have to prepare, so adding oil ground to it sort of defeats the intent, I guess, but I guess if it was something that I wanted to have more flexibility in storage, storing it takes less space. It kind of darkens up out there. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do back that way, but it's more in shadow. And then one other little color I mixed up just to begin, just to get the idea in, is I think these are called Sweet William, maybe? I don't remember. And again, just starting to get things located, color on the paper. I have to stand up again. To get a start going here. Those actually kind of hang over the table from my original vantage point. Okay, so I'll continue going through just with the flat color before moving on to the next step. So now I have most of the paper covered with the first pass of paint. And from here, what I'm going to do is to use a knife. This isn't my favorite knife. It's my second favorite knife. And start to adjust, I guess is the right word. Sort of add in a little more detail, some variety as far as edges. One thing with these smaller flowers is that I'll kind of look to highlight now, really to put in highlights. They're sort of put them in originally as all the same value and temperature. So now I'll start to change out, bring out a little bit of coolness in some of these that have the light hitting on them, and we'll put some more warmth, in this case into the shadow, because the light coming through the window is a cooler light, and so the shadows are warmer, which I did down here under this globe vase. I added in, when I added in the shadow, I used a warm red instead of a cool red to mix that. Similarly, making these oranges here, cadmium orange is a little bit of a cool orange, and then using the permanent rose with that gives it that a really nice cool feeling to it, even though orange we think of as a warm color. And then, you know, I can lighten that up with some radiant magenta, and really, it's so pretty. So pretty, all these colors. And that's really what's going to kind of give it that dimension, feeling of depth, is the contrast that will start to develop between warm and cool as much as between light and dark. So I'm going to just let the time lapse run now until I get to a stopping point and go from there. So clearly I'm not very skilled at doing this. I did not hit record for the time lapse, but as it happens, I don't like the surface still, even with the oil priming. And I've also been stuck in a place where I have not been able to get into, see through to the end representational paintings. I've been spending a lot of time on non-representational work at my studio at Water Street, and I haven't been able to paint outside. It's been very cold. So every time I paint from life, as I tried to today, I just lately have had like a it's where it ends up. And so a lot of times, usually if I just feel like I cannot get through the painting, I will scrape it, wipe it away. Sometimes I play around with the paint, which is what I did today. And so I will show you what that painting, where it's at now, and I like it. All right, so here's the flowers, and this was the thing I could not come up with a name for plant-wise, or what you would call that little round thing. But here's what ended up being sort of the finished. I don't know if it's finished. I don't know. But so anyways, what I did to get to this point was I used that palette knife and I just scraped up and pushed around the paint, and then I took my palette I was using, that paper palette, and hi Tug, Tuggy, hi Tug. These guys came over to hang out with me. Hi Clover. I took the palette that had blobs of paint and mixed up parts of paint, and I smashed it on this side, and then I turned it around the other way and I smashed it on that side, and I just thought, wow, this looks like a prairie to me. So then I tipped the paper to an angle and I sort of dripped down. You can see some thinner wash kind of parts that I dripped down with the dirty brushes I had stuck into the mineral spirits. I pulled them out and just kind of brushed them down. Let that drip, And then I did a little scraping in, which that's the part I may kind of tone that down, especially over here where it looks like an upside down mountain. I kind of like that corner to the upper right. It sort of has like a sunburst feeling to me. I don't know if I'll enhance that at all. But yeah, this is part of my process. So when stuff does not go well, I try to just kind of hang in that space and play around a little bit and see what happens. And sometimes I really like what I end up making, and sometimes it leads to continuing down a road of creativity and trying out different things along those same lines. So these guys have been really patient, and it's getting close to their lunchtime, so we're going to sign off. And hopefully one of these days I'll see a representational painting through to the end in a process video. Thanks for watching.